You could literally feel the panic through the TV when the fourth quarter started, because the San Antonio Spurs were not supposed to win that game once Anthony Edwards started cooking like that. Minnesota looked sharper for most of the night. The ball movement was cleaner, the defense rotated faster, and Ant looked like a man who walked into the arena already pissed off at gravity itself. When he was hitting step back threes with dudes draped all over him, like somebody accidentally turned the difficulty sliders down, I was shocked. But then the Spurs did something terrifying that young teams do when they stop caring about pressure and just hoop recklessly. That's when the game shifted from basketball into psychological warfare. Because once Victor Wembanyama realized nobody on earth could contest him, the entire mood changed and the Wolves started looking around like somebody lost a damn emergency key. The scary part is, the Wolves did not play bad, which is why the series feels insane right now. Usually when fans lose their minds after a playoff game, it's because one team played like complete ass and forgot how to dribble for 12 straight minutes. That did not happen here at all. Minnesota still looked dangerous as hell, and still looked like a future face of the league, and their defense still had stretches where the Spurs offense looked confused and dehydrated. But the Spurs survived every punch because Wemby kept bending the game into something weird and uncomfortable. This dude had people pump faking on open layups like they saw a damn ghost standing under the rim. And I'm not gonna lie with y'all, if I'm a Minnesota fan, I'm leaving Game 3 mad as hell because they actually did enough to win. Sometimes basketball is cruel because you can play a solid game and then a 7'4" alien starts erasing possessions like he's deleting files off a computer. And gave them everything emotionally too. You can see it in his face every time out, like he was trying to drag the whole city with him. That's the kind of game that makes players sit in silence on a plane ride home, staring at absolutely nothing. And honestly, that's why the series is fire, because nobody looks fake tough here. The Spurs won because their role players finally stopped playing scared. That matters way more than people think. Earlier in the series, you could tell dudes were hesitating before every shot, like they were asking permission from the basketball gods. In Game 3, they finally said screw it and started firing confidently. And suddenly, the spacing around Wemby looked 10 times better. Analytic nerds are gonna point at the 3-point efficiency and offensive rating swings. And yeah, they matter a little for sure. But honestly, the real difference was confidence here. Basketball is half strategy and half, man, get the fuck out my way energy. And San Antonio finally tapped into that side of themselves. And can we talk about how terrifying Wemby is defensively? Because this dude changes the emotional temperature of a game. Players are driving into the paint, then immediately making switches mid-air. 1 second they're aggressive, and the next second they're throwing the ball back on the perimeter like, nah, I actually respect my life. That's not normal. He doesn't even have to block the shot, because sometimes the fear already did the job before the ball left the hand. The Wolves had possessions where the offense looked beautiful until they got near the rim and suddenly forgot how to act. I think the series is exposing something really important about Minnesota too. They are legit, right? But they still have moments where the offense gets sticky when Ant has to create everything late. It's not because the roster is trash, because it's not, right? It's because playoff basketball eventually turns into emotional survival and somebody has to create offense while exhausted. Ant can absolutely do it, don't get me wrong. But the burden gets heavy. You can see it when he starts forcing impossible shots because nobody else is putting enough pressure on the defense. That's not hate either. That's just playoff reality smacking everyone in the mouth equally. The funniest part about this whole thing is how fast narratives switch in the NBA. 2 days ago, people were talking about the Spurs like they were adorable little underdogs just happy to be here. Now everybody's realizing that Wemby might already be one of the most impactful players alive. That's kind of terrifying for the league. You can't teach that kind of defensive chaos, and you definitely can't teach being tall enough to high-five God without jumping. The Wolves are learning in real time that every mistake against San Antonio gets amplified, because Wemby turns normal possessions into panic attacks. Don't get me wrong though, the Timberwolves still deserve respect, because Ant was phenomenal. The stats back it up too. Efficient scoring, attacking downhill constantly, creating possessions after possessions, and keeping the pace alive when the offense started getting ugly. But what impressed me most was the composure, because there are moments where the Spurs crowd got loud enough to make people forget their own names, and he still kept attacking. Some stars start playing nervous when a playoff game flips. Ant just gets meaner. He really has that, I do not care if this arena explodes, I'm still shooting the damn ball mentality. That's why I still think Minnesota has a serious shot in this series. Everyone's acting like Game 3 ended the Wolves is overreacting like crazy. Calm the fuck down. The Spurs won a massive game at home because their superstar took over, and the supporting cast stepped up at the perfect time. That happens in playoff series all the time. The bigger question is whether San Antonio can survive when Minnesota adjusts offensively and starts trapping actions harder around Wemby. That chess match is where things get dangerous. One thing I love about this series is nobody's pretending to be something they're not. The Spurs are young, weird, fearless, and occasionally chaotic as hell. The Wolves are physical, emotional, aggressive. That contrast makes every game feel tense because the momentum swings are ridiculous. One minute the Wolves look unstoppable, and the next minute Wemby blocks a shot into another dimension, and the entire building loses its mind. This series might generally be the future of the NBA. This series generally feels like the future of the NBA punching itself in the face repeatedly. I gotta be honest too, some of the Wolves role players need to sit the fuck down and rethink this game, because there were moments where the decision making looked drunk, not even trying to disrespect them either. You cannot challenge Wemby casually at the rim like he's a random center. That's like seeing a tornado and saying, "Now just walk through it." Kick the ball out, reset the offense. Stop trying to become a playoff highlight at the worst possible time because that dude is deleting shots for fun. The narrative around this series now is pressure, and pressure changes everything. Minnesota suddenly feels the weight because they know that they have a real chance to steal this game. Meanwhile, the Spurs are walking around loose because young teams gain confidence insanely fast, y'all. Once a team like San Antonio starts believing they belong, it gets dangerous. Their energy gets louder, their defense gets sharper, and role players suddenly start making shots they're normally breaking to the third row. That's why playoff momentum is so brutal, because confidence spreads through a roster faster than people realize. Now my prediction right now is this series is absolutely going at least 6 games, because neither team looks mentally weak. I still trust Minnesota's overall consistency a little bit more, but the best player ceiling in the series already belongs to Wemby. And when that happens, predictions start feeling real stupid fast. One historic performance can flip everything. That's what makes this matchup addictive, because every game feels one adjustment away from complete chaos. What makes Wemby terrifying isn't just the stats either, even though the numbers are already ridiculous. It's the feeling he creates watching a game. The Spurs could look dead offensively for 5 straight possessions, then suddenly he blocks a shot, hits a 3, screams at the crowd, and the entire arena wakes up like somebody turned the power back on. Superstars change momentum emotionally, not just statistically. That's what he's starting to do now. And honestly, the league might be cooked if he keeps developing this fast, because this version of him already has teams looking stressed beyond belief. I also think people underestimate how mentally exhausting it is playing a series against somebody like Wemby. It's not just about blocks, it's constantly second guessing yourself. Players hesitating, overpassing, changing angles, rushing floaters, and avoiding shots they normally take confidently. That psychological pressure builds over 7 games. You can literally see it happening possession by possession once the game tightens up late. At the end of the day though, the Wolves still look great, which is why the series feels special instead of fake dramatic sports TV nonsense, and look like a superstar. Minnesota defended hard. The game was physical. The intensity felt real. The Spurs just executed better when everything got uncomfortable. And Wemby closed the door like a damn supervillain. I'm leaning Spurs in 7 right now, because Wemby's impact feels impossible to fully solve over a long series, but I would not be shocked at all if Ant responds with some psycho 40-point game next matchup and flips the entire narrative again. That's why this series is insane, because every game feels like the NBA future fighting itself in real time, while everybody else watches nervously, trying to figure out who the hell is actually going to take over the league. But that's just my thoughts, man. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and until later, I'll see you on Mars. Peace.
You telling me you falling out of love with me. Hope you can find someone to love you better than I did. Taking our memories on love and treating it like nothing. Taking our memories on love and treating it like gossip. It's my love for my grandmother make me gentle when I care for you. Tell me you're falling out of love, she's breaking my heart in two.